The State Department Store is known all over Mongolia and is one of the major landmarks in Ulaanbaatar. It's located in the center of the capital and more precisely on Peace Avenue, one of the main thoroughfares. People often think that it was the Soviets who built it. However, it was actually a project created and financed by the Chinese. At that time, both the USSR and the PRC were each trying to absorb Mongolia within their spheres of influence and consequently financed massive construction projects across the country. The Chinese architects in charge of the project modeled it after the State Department Store in Beijing, and the construction was completed in 1961. As the name suggests, the State Department Store was essentially a state-owned and run store offering products ranging from clothing to electronic appliances. It was privatized in 1999, became a shopping mall housing many different vendors, and is in the most part owned by Nomin Holdings, which is one of the biggest conglomerates in the country. The interior of the State Department Store hasn't changed much along the years, save for the addition of things such as escalators and revolving doors. Inside, you'll find a variety of different vendors from North Face to Samsung, and the shopping experience is similar to that of other malls. On the 5th floor, there is a very interesting, small and free museum on the history of Mongolian trade, which exhibits tools and equipment used in the State Department Store, such as abacuses, scales, and calculators. There are also photos of the State Department Store across the decades since it was established, as well as some vintage products that used to be sold in the store. Anyway, it's all really fascinating stuff, and I highly recommend that you visit this place. Another noteworthy thing to mention is the significant refurbishment of the building after a fire destroyed the roof and most of the 6th floor in 2020. Fortunately, most people evacuated the building in time. The firemen managed to rescue the 11 people that were still trapped inside, and there were neither any injuries nor any fatalities to report. The area around the store is one of the busiest in the capital, and the plaza across the street is home to the famous Beatles monument, which marks the place where, in communist times, young Mongolians would assemble and listen to forbidden Western music and discuss ideas of freedom and democracy. The Beatles' music is even credited with inspiring Mongolians to fight for their democracy. The State Department Store didn't always operate from this building, as the business was originally founded in 1921, the same year that the Soviet Red Army liberated the city, and thereby most of the country, from Qing rule. From 1921 to 1930, the State Department Store was located in a small, unassuming, single-story building on Tourist Street that is currently being used as a Mormon church. Subsequently, from 1930 to 1961, the State Department Store moved to a bigger building just across the street, now known as the Zanabazar Fine Arts Museum. Built by a Russian merchant in 1913, it was one of the largest structures in the city at the time. And later, a Chinese banking concern took over the building and stayed there until 1921, the year the Qing were booted out. The Soviets used the building first as the Red Army headquarters and then to house both the Ministry of Finance and the Mutual Aid Cooperative. In 1930, the building was expanded and the State Department Store took over the premises. And when the State Department Store moved to its current location back in 1961, the building first served as a bookstore and then, from 1966 onwards, as an art museum. To reach the buildings that first housed the State Department Store, you should take the following route. Note that I started my journey facing the front of the State Department Store.